Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm James Gallagher, the Republican leader in the state assembly. And despite what Gavin Newsom may say, we have not solved gun violence here in California. In fact, we have a very serious problem with gun crimes. And we're here today to highlight the absolute hypocrisy of California Democrats and the governor in stopping gun crime. Through their actions and their votes, the Democrats send the message that guns are bad unless you're a criminal who uses them to commit crimes against people in California. Democrats have consistently failed to take gun crime seriously. We are now on a track here in California of 44 mass shootings a year. This weekend, we had another one in San Francisco. 9 people were shot. Now, this person that was involved with that shooting is wanted in connection with outstanding gun warrants throughout the Bay Area. And another shooting in Oakland that had occurred recently. This is a habitual criminal, the kind of person that Democrats lately seem to want to take it easy on. A day later, a teenager was killed and 6 others wounded in a shooting at a birthday party in Antioch. And we've seen this happen far too much. Sacramento, just blocks from the Capitol. Oroville on a Greyhound bus. Rockland a couple months ago. Democrats don't like to talk about these incidents because they often involve a scenario of a person who has a long history of criminality, of possessing guns that they aren't supposed to have in the first place, and or they've been released after having very limited accountability for their crimes that they have committed with guns. And just this morning, steps away from me, the California Highway Patrol, who protect this Capitol, found someone suffering from a gunshot wound on these steps. Thankfully, that victim is expected to survive, but it shows that in California, nowhere is safe from this crime wave, from this gun crime wave. Year after year, Democrats water down sentences for gun criminals. They demonize lawful gun owners while excusing and enabling violence committed by career offenders. This year, Democrats' new push is to put new restrictions on CCW holders, concealed carry permit holders. Do you know how many murders have been committed by a CCW holder in California in the last decade? 1. Meanwhile, just last year in 2021, there were 1,734 gun murders throughout this state. Clearly, Democrats are attacking the wrong people. Legal gun owners are not the problem. Instead of putting dangerous criminals away in jail, Democrats continue to make excuses for those lawbreakers. Less than 2 years ago, Democrats passed and Newsom signed a law to get rid of gun enhancements in many cases. This year, they killed bill after bill, and these headstones represent them. Ideas from Republicans to get tough on those who are using guns to victimize our people in this state. Each of those bills killed on party line votes. If Democrats want to get serious about gun violence, about gun crimes, then they need to start passing policies that hold criminals accountable for victimizing our people with guns. I'll now turn it over to my colleagues who want to share about their bills that are solutions to this problem, bills that they propose that have been killed this year on party line votes. And first up is Assemblymember Tree Ta.
Thank you, Leader Gallagher, and hello everyone. I am Assemblyman Tree Ta, and you all aware that California has some of the strictest gun law in the U.S. But the number of firearms relating shooting has increased dramatically over the last few years. It is also within the last few years that the legislature has lessened criminal penalty for crime, eliminating firearm-related criminal enhancement. In order to help prevent gun violence on the first day on the state assembly, I introduced AB 27 to restore to just the ability to add a firearms-related enhancement to crime committed with guns. And despite saying that they are anti-gun violence, the Public Safety Committee vote along party lines to kill this measure that would help protect the public. It is time that the legislative leader step up and actually support bill that strengthen criminal penalty for gun violence.
And next up, we have Assemblymember Tom Lackey, who sits on the Public Safety Committee.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I want you to know that as a 20-year veteran of the California Highway Patrol, I understand a very important part of our criminal justice system that has been abandoned. And I mean abandoned. And that is the victims of violent crime. How symbolic was it that they found a victim of violent crime on the steps of the Capitol? These messages need to be heard loud and clear. Public safety is not a partisan issue, but it's becoming a partisan divide when it comes to legislative votes. Why in the world don't we have the balance the public deserves? That's what we're asking for. We're trying to create balance. Look at these bills before you that have very strong suggestions on how to hold those who are committing these violent offenses accountable. Since when is that unreasonable? I will tell you, it's become that. And it's super frustrating. And the other side needs to understand we're not going to stop because the public deserves to be represented. And victims need to be part of the equation. So shame on those who continue to be an obstacle, because we will continue to battle for their justice. That should be a no-brainer. It's, as I would call, head spinning. Thank you.
And next up, we're going to have Assemblymember Joe Patterson, who introduced a bill this year that was highlighted by the San Francisco Chronicle as a much-needed measure, finally making the connection between domestic violence crimes and far too many mass shootings in this state. Assemblymember Patterson.
Thank you, and good afternoon. A bill I authored, AB 229, unsurprisingly was killed in the Assembly Public Safety Committee on a party line vote. It would have done the crazy thing of making felony domestic violence a violent felony. Despite it being in the name, it's not a violent felony. So what that would mean is a person would be ineligible for early release. And we saw this right here in Sacramento, unfortunately, during the pandemic and when things were closed. Smiley Martin was released early from prison, half his sentence, less than half his sentence, and killed 6 people right out here in downtown Sacramento. The crime that he was committed of was definitely should have been felony domestic violence, and he should not have been eligible for early release. What he did is he dragged his domestic partner out by her hair, punched her in the face, and continued to beat her in a car, and went to prison for that. It was great that he got convicted, but the state's policies let him out early, and he went on and committed a mass shooting within months of being early release. Domestic violence has increased in California. Roughly 20% of all violent crime is domestic violence. Abusers with access to firearms increase the likelihood of an intimate partner violence approximately 5-fold. There were 12,500 misdemeanor convictions for domestic violence in 2019 alone, and 2,501 in 2021. 2,501 calls for service for domestic violence where an individual involved a firearm. So we need to get to the root of the problem, and there should be nothing wrong with putting a person in prison and stopping them from early release who has a proven track record of violence. This is exactly what we need to be doing. I urge the majority party to rethink it. I really don't need the governor talking about Florida, talking about Mississippi, or bragging about how California is better than other states. All I know is that literally it's come to the footsteps of the Capitol, It's time to act on these violent criminals, and that will help reduce violent crime. 68% of all mass shootings are committed by somebody with a history of domestic violence. And we got to put an end to that. AB 229 would have done that. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Patterson. And next we have Assemblymember Bill Asaley.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. We are tired of the rhetoric from the majority party at the Capitol. Democrats love to talk about stopping guns, but they don't want anything to do with stopping gun violence. Their failed criminal justice policies that have been enacted over the last decade are responsible for the crime we're seeing today. They not only have blood on their hands, but we literally now have blood on the steps of the Capitol as a result of their failed policies. And enough is enough. We have to get back to strong public policies in the state of California. We have to incarcerate individuals who are willing to pick up a gun and shoot another person or a police officer in the face. No longer can we say that this is acceptable in a civilized society. It is time to restore punishment for serious felonies and offenses in California. I introduced AB 328 to reinstore the firearm enhancement. If you use a gun to commit a violent felony, you should go to prison. But the Democrats who run this place don't think so. They killed it in public safety, and when they had the opportunity to vote on it again just a week ago, they killed my amendment on a party line. So go ask the Democrats where they stand on gun violence, because their record is clear. We're sick of it. We're done with it. It is time to get back to public safety, and I hope the public will please wake up, call your elected officials, and demand action. We can't just pick up bodies every morning off the streets. This is not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember. And then last, Assemblymember Diane Dixon.
Good afternoon, everyone. It seems to become a regular occurrence that you're out here at the steps of the Capitol joining with us, observing us, demanding action. And my bill, I can see it here, AB 578 that I introduced into public safety earlier this year is to protect our communities from criminals in possession of firearms. Another one of the long list of protections for our communities. We need to develop common sense policies that actually hit the target they are meant to, the people who are shooting guns. AB 758 would create an additional enhancement for the possession of unserialized or unregistered ghost guns at the time a felony is committed. A ghost gun is an unregistered firearm. Legal gun owners do not use ghost guns to commit crimes. AB 758, if passed by the Public Safety Committee, which is now held over for reconsideration, would target individuals who use unregistered guns because they are untraceable in order to commit crimes. This is a common sense proposal to limit one aspect, a significant aspect of the guns that are being used to commit crimes. Unfortunately, it did not pass, but it is under reconsideration, so I intend to fight for it when it comes back again. We have to see what happens. We know what the track record is, so that's why we're inviting you out today to bring awareness to these long list of bills that we have been fighting for, many with bipartisan support, that we must get through public safety. And my bill will crack down on criminal use of ghost guns to make Californians feel more secure. This is what we're hearing in all of our districts. People wonder what's going on in Sacramento. They ask me that all the time. What's with public safety? 30% of all guns that law enforcement recovers are considered ghost guns. We will, my bill would have enhanced the sentencing for 2 additional years in prison if a firearm is in possession during the felony, and 3 years if the firearm is used in commission of a felony or attempted felony. The problem with my bill, AB 758, is because the word enhancement is included. And just as my colleagues are saying, enhancement is what is necessary, but the Public Safety Committee recoils at the word enhancement. They do not want to strengthen our laws. We want to return to when crime was illegal. Let's make crime illegal again. And it is absolutely essential that our communities feel safe. California, interestingly enough, has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation, yet we still experience these tragic shootings and mass shootings every year, every week in our own community. We have more than 100 laws on the books regulating firearms, yet the governor wants to have a constitutional amendment. By the time that were to ever go through the process, which is highly unlikely to get the 27 or 30 states to call constitutional conventions, many more deaths by guns will occur by people who should not be possessing guns and should be convicted of the felony crime that was committed using a gun. We need to do better for California and pass public safety laws that make our communities safe, that rehabilitate criminals and keep them away from firearms. This is what the people of California want. This is what the representatives want here in Sacramento, but there has been a roadblock. We want to fight for breaking open this roadblock, break the roadblock by communicating to all of you beyond that we intend to make our community safer. Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you. And I just want to sum up by saying, these headstones up here represent bills that were killed this year in the legislature, but they also represent far too many lives that have been lost in California because of gun violence. When we're talking about 44 mass shootings a year in California, when we're talking about over 1,700 gun murders in 2021 alone, that's not solving the problem. And we have all the laws that the governor proposes in his constitutional amendment right here in California, and yet we still have all of these gun violence, gun murders in our state. More needs to be done. This is the more that needs to be done. Go after the criminals who are committing these crimes, and they're doing it over and over again. Smiley Martin, he had a continued record of possessing firearms he wasn't supposed to have. And he was let out early, and he did exactly what he showed us he would do when he shot up the downtown. Stop these policies. We need to get tough on gun crimes in California. That is the other part of this puzzle to reduce gun deaths and far too many lives lost to gun violence in California. Now with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.